Chapter 14. Champagne, Gossip, and Romance. 1. The champagne glasses were golden and bubbly. Some sparkled with glitter from tables and paper hats. Some marked red with lipstick. But they all were full as the countdown began. Nora had her arm hooked under mine as we all watched the television. She looked up at me with adoration. The intoxicated masses began to yell out, 10, 9. I love you too, I said, responding to her eyes. 6, 5, 4. We began kissing before midnight struck by 3 seconds. It must have been 60 degrees that night as we walked the 4 blocks home. The wind was only a slight breeze in the wee hours of the new year, but still it caused the shadowy trees to dance with their clingy Spanish moss skirts. Nora recited, "My soul is awakened, my spirit is soaring, and carried aloft on the wings of the breeze, for above and around me the wild wind is roaring, arousing to rapture the earth and the seas." Who is that? Anne Bronte, you know that. How am I going to know that, Nora? She was one of... Their whole family, basically, were all authors and poets. Her daddy was a poor Irish priest in England. The information my wife stored in her head sometimes made me wonder what kind of an old couple we'd be. I imagined that Nora would be writing her 5th book, being interviewed at readings. And meanwhile, I'd be eating pudding in the cafeteria, wondering where my pants were. We haven't talked about Salt Creek, Nora said. It's a beautiful night to walk, isn't it? Okay, she said, getting my avoidance and showing me mercy. Well, I suppose you want to know about Sandy and the meeting with her? The meeting? I thought it was just coffee. Finnegan, just because it's... you exhaust me. I'm teasing. Yes, I'd love to hear. She waited a second, trying to determine if I was legitimately interested. Well, Sandy knows every little detail of Peter's shenanigans. Shenanigans? I burst out laughing. What? You can say the word, but I can't? I continued laughing. Okay, so, shenanigans. His cheating? All of it. I guess there was more than just the girl at the office. Did you know about that? If I knew, you'd know. I spoke truthfully. There was no one I enjoyed gossip with more than my Nora. Evidently, there was some other girl that was getting him some pills or something or another like that. Pills? I asked, surprised. Yep, he even went to the doctor complaining about a fake back problem. He's been spending all kinds of money on prescription medications for over a year. Jesus, how did we not know that? Remember when he got in trouble at the Piggly Wiggly? Uh-huh. I was riveted at this level of gossip. Nora had drawn me in. That wasn't the misunderstanding he said it was to us. Remember he said he thought he'd paid for everything? Anyways, he got caught stealing friggin' condoms. Holy condoms? Yeah, Sandy said he was spiraling out of control even back then. Then he met this girl. A young girl. Sandy found out Peter was getting illegal medications from her, and he was buying her groceries on a regular basis in trade. That way, Peter wouldn't have to go into the seedy part of Brunswick, risking his own reputation, being seen with dealers and all that. Plus, that way he could hide some of the expenses. Sandy would be like, "Oh, Piggly Wiggly groceries, no big deal." I'm not sure how this girl was getting that stuff, the prescriptions, but he was getting her food and whatever else Peter wanted to give to her. Nora nodded her head, insinuating it was more. Jesus. If I was Sandy, Peter would be out. Gone. But you know Sandy, Mrs. Dependent. She wants him to get help. She wants to give him another chance. Said she's trying to get Smitty to talk with him. What the hell can Smitty do? I asked with a knee-jerk and hateful edge. Nora looked at me with a bit of defense for the pastor and his qualifications. Sorry, I said. She said Smitty is willing to talk with him if Peter is willing to sit down and discuss it. Wow, that's That's something. Yeah, heavy, right? She grabbed my hand. We walked in quiet for a minute. Nora loved me. Oh, did you mention to her that he came to the house on Christmas Eve? Oh, she knew. Otis told her. Who's Otis? Really sweet. Goes to St. Paul's. He's an elder there. An elder? A leader. His wife, Gina, she's incredible. Such a sweet woman of God. Woman of God, huh? My tone was sarcastic. Nora paused. Sorry, I said. Yes, a woman of God. She tilted her head toward me to emphasize her description. Oh, Otis and Gina. Old black couple. Sun porch on the side of the house. They're not that old. 60s, maybe. So Otis told Sandy? He saw Peter in front of the house when he was out walking his dog. Oh, okay. That was him. Otis said Merry Christmas, and Peter freaked out on him and even yelled at their little dog like a maniac. That's what Otis said, and I believe it. It looked crazy from my night vision, I said with a high pitch. Don't lie, you told me you didn't get there in time with your toy. Oh, yeah, I did tell you that, didn't I? I laughed. As Nora walked, I couldn't help, from my angle, notice the deep décolletage of her dress. Her hair was pulled back, exposing her beautiful neck, shoulders. A blue jeweled necklace outlined her fantastic cleavage. She looked up at me, noticing my bedroom eyes. Stop it. She turned her head away. Look at that. We're here. Cassidy was at our neighbor's home, Darcy's. They were having a 6-year-old's version of a New Year's party with the potential new members of the Circle of Truth. But the girls didn't make it to midnight awake, so I carried her home. Nora was looking at me as if I were her hero. And it was a good moment. A perfect moment, really. Once home, I tucked Cassidy in as Nora went to get ready for bed. 2. In keeping with my perpetual lecherous behavior, I quietly sneaked between the cool, clean sheets, waiting. I grabbed the remote control and turned on the television. Hurry up, Nora. She was making her way through her nightly ritual. I was occupying my time, flipping through channels. I made a vain attempt to concentrate on ESPN. Blah, 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 Rose Bowl, blah, blah. It was too late. I'd slipped into the romance trance. Sports meant nothing to me. So when do you want to go? She said with a normal voice. I jumped like I'd been caught stealing. She'd snapped me out of my stupor. Then, rushing through my subliminal consciousness as to what she said, I asked, To Salt Creek? Yeah, to Salt Creek. When do you want to go? Honestly, honey, I'm hoping this will pass. Seriously, Finnegan? She asked with the strike of disappointment. You just promised your little girl that we'd go. What? The other day. Her voice pitched higher. When? What other day? I don't remember. She poked her head through the door. You were putting up Christmas decorations. You and Cassidy. Oh, that was before Christmas. She was confused about what she wanted. She had gifts on the brain, and she was worried about the existence of Santa. We should maybe commit her. She's a little mess. Finn, I sighed, understanding the disappointed tone of my truncated name. I'll see what's available and schedule a time off from work. I wasn't in the mood to argue or even to discuss this matter. I had something else entirely on my mind. So you never thought Peter was out of his usual self lately? Did you notice anything? Did he say anything? With a slightly agitated tone, I said, He tells me a lot of things, Nora, but I guess he filters out any damning information. Probably based on what he's willing to have you know. What's that mean? Well, you know, he knows I'll tell you. Plus, he knows you'll eventually talk with Sandy, so it's not a bad thing, I'm just saying. Oh, okay. That makes sense. The bathroom light went off. I glanced with a desperate effort not to look pathetic. This woman made me pathetic. She made me melt. There she stood, nothing but skin, then began to walk more slowly than she knew I could stand. She pulled back her covers as I stared at her. This incredible feline of a woman knew what I liked. So familiar, and still so sexy. I suppose it was times like those that made me wonder why any man or woman would cheat on the gift that God gave them. And even though their mechanical misery had nothing to do with me, the thought of their sadness forced me into that place of culpability nonetheless. Even so, the night was good. For many years we'd been experiencing that dance and variations of it, finding the heart of the other's desires and persuading it onto the dance floor. There are a rhythm and beauty, I think, when two people know each other so well for so long, when two people are in love. Timing and giving the other what they want in their most vulnerable and naked moments are what I believed, and still do, help make the less exciting and sometimes painful whiles of life a bit more manageable.